Here at Paddy Power, we're the home of the Money Back Special, with some incredible offers every single week. Check out the website or app today. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus begambleaware.org.
Hello and welcome back to the Football Postcast here on the Racing Post. Thank you so much for tuning in once again as we guide you through all of the footballing action coming up over the next few days across all of the leagues. Today I'm armed with a fruit tea and the finest Racing Post sport journalists in Dan Childs and Liam Flynn, and we've also got Emmet O'Keefe here to give us the perspective from the bookies. Gents, I love this time of the year because it feels as if there's football every day of the week and all of the games feel important. Dan, the Champions League, we've had a few of the games, English teams involved. What have you made of them games so far?
I was impressed with Manchester City last night. I mean, even when they were 1-0 down, you were still struggling to see how they weren't going to get through the tie. I mean, Real Madrid had a little bit of a spell then, but Manchester City are just relentless. They had the players out there they're bringing off the bench. I mean, you bring in Sterling on, you got Aguero on the bench, and eventually 2-1 was the least that they deserve, really. I mean, they're going to go through, and I would say they would be right at the top of my list of teams to win it. Liverpool, I still think, I mean, although it's, they're in a tricky situation, you don't want to be, you concede an away goal against Atletico in the second leg, and they're not an easy team to score three against, are they? So, if they get through that, I would think they've still got a great chance. Bayern Munich's another team I've been very impressed with. I mean, I know the English teams they've come up against, Spurs and Chelsea, have not been the strongest, but the way they've dispatched both of them, I mean, you would think that they're ready, to give one of the top teams a good game as well. So they will be near the top of my list as well.
For sure. Liam, I've scribbled on my notes here. Chelsea struggling, Manchester City thriving. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, possibly. I certainly think with the Man City game, Guardiola got his tactics spot on. I really like the De Bruyne kind of playing in that false nine role. It really seemed to work.
He's brilliant, isn't he, De Bruyne?
Absolutely sensational. Yeah, he dictated that game. Yeah. And I think quite a few moments in the game, City kind of had Real Madrid pinned in their own half, in their own third even, and obviously at the Bernabeu, that's quite something. So, I thought Real Madrid would give them more of a game than they did. I thought they lacked urgency, they lacked directness, and I think City have definitely got a good crack at it. I think another thing to kind of say about the Champions League this week is European football is quite often sort of cyclical. You get these spells where nations particularly perform well in European competition, and the nation I'd have a look at would be Germany this season. I think you look at how Leipzig performed at Tottenham, how Dortmund performed against Paris Saint-Germain, and now how Bayern Munich absolutely tore Chelsea to shreds. They were superb. I think Thiago and Kimmich are probably one of the best two sort of midfield partnerships in the competition, the way they just controlled that game at Stamford Bridge, and then obviously the pace they have on the flank in Gnabry, Coman, and then I think Alphonso Davies just had a really top game, and then that's without even talking about Robert Lewandowski, who's scored 30-odd goals in all competitions this season already. So I think they're about 4-1 in the outright market at the moment. So if I were to have to back any side at the moment at the prices, Bayern Munich would be the team I'd be going for.
Great stuff, Emmet. I think that was a seamless link there from Liam. Has the outright market changed at all over the past week or so?
Yeah, so a couple of big changes. Man City and Bayern Munich are the two biggest movers. So currently Man City are 5-2 favs, Bayern Munich 7-2, Liverpool 6-1, Barcelona 15-2, PSG 9-1, Juventus 12-1, Leipzig 18-1, and 22-1 Bar.
And what have you made of the English teams in the past week? Do you think Manchester City coming through that very impressive game against Real Madrid is slightly something to do with the rulings from UEFA and possibly meaning they're not going to be playing much European football over the next couple of years?
Yeah, definitely. As the kind of most pundits have pointed out, there has to be some sort of siege mentality, and a kind of feeling that this might be the last chance for this team providing that the City's lawyers can't get the verdict overturned in the Court of Arbitration for Sport. The one worry I'd have for them is obviously I think the Laporte injury was huge. Is huge. In the 7 Premier League games he started this year, they've had 5 clean sheets. In their other 20 league games, they've only had 4 between them. So I think that gives you an indication. I think he's not far off in terms of influence what Virgil van Dijk is for Liverpool, and just if he were to stay fit, if he was fit, I think they'd be rightful favourites of the Champions League. But with him out, I think there has to be some doubts, despite the excellent win last night.
Definitely, yeah. Thanks very much, Emmet. Dan, I want to quickly move away from the Champions League. We've had a few questions come in on Twitter regarding your stance on West Brom. Yeah. Now, earlier in the season, you weren't overly keen.
No.
Now they're thriving in the Championship. Yeah. It looks like they're going to come back up to the Premier League. The top two, it's been a good week for them in the Championship. Where do you stand with West Brom now?
No, I think they're going to go up, and probably as champions as well. I've been so impressed with them the last few weeks. Earlier in the season, they were winning a few games without really dominating. They were still a very good side. Don't get me wrong, but I think recently, Callum Robinson coming in from Sheffield United, he's made a big difference. I think they're getting more from the attacking midfield players. I think Krovinovic earlier in the season, when he had to come in and play centrally, wasn't necessarily. Playing as well as he is now. He looks great now. Matheus Pereira's still playing superbly, and they've been able to maintain a high standard despite Grady Diangana, who was a key player for them earlier in the season, being injured. I think the depth now looks a lot better than it was. Also got Grzycki who they brought in, as an extra wide option. Phillips couldn't even get. He was on the bench in the week. He's been a regular starter earlier in the season. So there's such a lot of depth there now. Yeah, champions for me now, I've got to say, yeah.
There you go, West Brom fans. An apology from Dan Charles. Right, let's move on to the Premier League action this week then. It all starts on Friday night at Carrow Road with Norwich City against Leicester. Emmet, please give us a show of the odds for this, mate.
So Norwich are 10-3, draw 3-1, and Leicester 4-6.
Leicester, can you see them coming out victorious at Carrow Road on Friday, Emmet?
They're definitely the most likely winners, but I do think whether Wilfred and Ndidi plays or not will have a lot to do with the outcome. I think if you saw even the goal Mahrez scored against them last week that there was a huge amount of space in the Leicester midfield that I don't feel would have been there if Ndidi had played, and their form has been pretty shaky since he came out of the team. Also, Norwich have actually been fairly competitive at home this year, despite their league position. Only Liverpool have kept them scoreless at Carrow Road. So I wouldn't expect Leicester to run away with it, whether Ndidi plays or not. The angle I'd like here would be Leicester to win and both teams to score at 9-4. I think, even if Norwich keep it competitive, I can't see them keeping out the likes of Maddison, Vardy and co.
Yeah, definitely. Liam, you keep giving me hope with Norwich, but they just don't deliver. I mean, Emmett's raised a stat there. Only Liverpool have kept Norwich scoreless at Carrow Road this season, but they are so leaky at the back. They seem to be scoring goals, but also conceding more, and that's not a good combination, is it?
No, and typically is a combination of a team in those sort of bottom three places. I'm afraid I'm going to feed you a little bit more hope again this weekend. I like to look at Norwich or draw double chance at even money. I just think that Leicester have been in a bit of a down spiral of late. They've not really looked themselves winless in their last 4 games in all competition. They failed to score in their last 2. I mean, admittedly, that run of fixtures has been a lot tougher than what they'll face at Carrow Road. But I think Norwich will feel that they can kind of capitalise in that slight knocking confidence that Leicester have suffered, especially now that they're kind of in a bit of a no man's land, Leicester, in the league, in a sense that with that game against City now, you'd expect them to kind of be assured of Champions League football, but they've also obviously not got anything particularly to aim for in the league this campaign, so it's a difficult one for them. Canaries obviously got a point from the reverse fixture back in December, managed 10 shots at the King Power in that game. Obviously, we mentioned Wilfred Ndidi. I just think that obviously he's such a crucial player to Leicester's midfield. He's usually their calming presence, and without him, it could play into Norwich's hands if it's a bit of an erratic game, if it's a bit of a chaotic game. And I think that Norwich will look to kind of, as soon as they can, disrupt that free-flowing football that Leicester like to play. So Norwich will draw double chance at even money could be a good bet.
Very stuff, Liam. Dan, I mean, we keep hearing that Leicester are on a bit of a downward spiral, but they're still, as Liam mentioned there, pretty much guaranteed Champions League football. They're a very good Premier League team, aren't they?
They are, but I'm going to give you a bit more hope as well. I'm going to go with a draw at 3-1, which I think is overpriced. And there's a lot of reasons. Firstly, I think Norwich are in a terrible situation, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're absolutely doomed yet. I think they're about 7 points from safety. A lot of the teams around them are not picking up more points as well. True. So they're just about, they'll be thinking, if we can get one win against unexpected against a team right up there, it brings us a little bit in touch. And they've still got to play West Ham, I think, Brighton and Watford. So if you can get within sort of 4 points of these teams and you still got to play them, it just gives you a slight, a little bit of encouragement. And I think Leicester, Emmet mentioned about Ndidi. There's a stat to back that up as well. They've got 5 points, Leicester, from their 6 games without Ndidi. That is astonishing when you consider their general points take this season, and just have not been on a great run really since the turn of the year. Norwich do score goals at home, as Emmet mentioned. They've took the lead in 6 of their last 7 home games. The exception to that was the Liverpool match, when they still had a few little openings, didn't quite pick the right option. And if they score first here, which the stat says they might do, will Leicester have enough to sort of turn it around and win the game? Leicester have only scored 2 goals or more in 2 of their last 9 games. So they're not. And Jamie Vardy, the main man, he's got no goal in his last 9 appearances. So there's a few little bits and pieces there for Norwich to hold on to. Timu Pukki needs to deliver, though. He's not scored from open play since December. So that was against Leicester in the 1-1 draw.
Picked up an injury in that game as well.
Yes, again, they'll take heart from they played well in that game, deserve the 1-1 draw. So I think they'll get a similar result here.
Well, hope for Canaries fans. Will there be hope for Brighton fans? We'll be previewing that game after this break.
I'm Jose Mourinho. I know a thing or two about being special. English Manager of the Year 3 times, special. Winning the daily jackpot on Paddy Power games, not special.
Understood, Jose. Yes, someone wins an average £40,000 jackpot every single day. So if you win, don't think you're special. Daily Jackpots by Paddy Power Games. Jackpots must be awarded by 11 p.m. and vary from day to day. Jackpot is shared with other operators. Available on selected games. T's and C's at paddypower.com. 18+ BGambleAware.org.
Hello, welcome back to the Football Postcast here on the Racing Post. Myself, Jack Reeve, Dan Childs and Liam Flynn join me in the studio with Paddy Power's Emmet O'Keefe on the line. Gents, we'll get into the next game. It's Saturday, 12:30 kickoff. Brighton versus Crystal Palace. Of course, this is a fairly tasty rivalry. Emmet, take us through it, mate.
Yeah, so Brighton are even money. The draw's 11-5, and Palace are 11-4. I really like Palace here at the price. Brighton haven't won a match in all competitions this year, including being knocked out at home by Sheffield Wednesday in the Cup. Palace have always been an excellent counter-attacking side under Roy Hodgson. I'd expect Brighton to have most of the possession here, but Palace get the better chance on the break. Also, Patrick Van Aanholt was absent with injury earlier in the year, but he's been back the last couple of matches and he was really outstanding last week. And the left side of Palace attack with him and Zaha is a really potent combination. I think I'd like Palace here, double chance at 8-11 and draw no bet at 13-8.
Oh, Bruce will certainly be happy to hear that, Emmet. Liam, do you agree?
No, Bruce might not be so happy with my verdict. I like the look of Brighton at evens. Obviously, I think they are actually the only side in England's top 4 leagues yet to win in 2020. I think I'm right in saying that. So obviously that's a record they'd like to shake off, and I think they could buck that trend against their rivals. The two teams were quite contrasting football philosophies, Graham Potter and Hodgson. No club has scored fewer than Palace's 24 league goals this season. Whereas Brighton, it doesn't sound particularly fantastic, but they're ranked 9th in terms of shots taken in the league and 10th in terms of big chances created, which is fairly impressive. That's above the likes of Man United and Arsenal in the latter of those two stats. Potter, I think, will be having his side playing on the front foot because they want to pull away from the drop zone now. They're kind of in a position where they don't want to be accumulating draws and then find themselves in the mix coming into the season. And this they'll view as a really good opportunity. Not only will they be hyped up because of the rivalry, but Palace have got a few injuries to contend with. I think Mamadou Sakho has returned to training, but this game could come possibly too early for him. And then the other players, obviously, they've got out James Tompkins, Luka Milivojevic, Jeffrey Schlupp and Cheku Kouyaté, all likely to miss out. And players in their defensive third of the pitch, which is typically where Palace are quite strong. So I think Brighton, with the players they've got going forwards, they should be able to get enough to get a win in this one.
Dan, we know the history of this match. There's certainly a rivalry there. But not only that, both of these teams, they're not out of that relegation scrap just yet, are they? This is a big game. Especially
Brighton, really, and I think there's more pressure on them. And I'm going to follow Emmett's lead here. I'm going to go Crystal Palace, draw no bet as well. I just think Brighton, they flatter to deceive for me. They often create chances, fail to take them. They're poor at the back. They've got 1 clean sheet in 17 games. Wow. And that is an appalling record. 1 win in the last 13. Apart from as well as not defending that great, Graham Potter seems to be lost a bit of faith in his top scorer, Neil Maupay, who's been in and out the side in recent weeks. You think he played Maupay and Glenn Murray up front in a 2. as a different strategy at Sheffield United last week. Got a 1-1 draw, decent result. But Crystal Palace, I think, on the counter-attack, playing away to them, it will suit them. I think Milivojevic as well is back in training. He was ill last week, and I think that could be a big boost if he returns for them. And I think, on the counter-attack with Wilfried Zaha, they don't often need as many chances, Palace, to nick a goal. And I think the way Brighton are at the back, I think Palace will take advantage.
Definitely. Brighton are an interesting side to try and wrap your head around this season. Okay, the 3 o'clock Saturday fixtures, we've got a few of them, so let's spin through them. The first is Bournemouth against Chelsea. I mean, Bournemouth are in a right scrap at the bottom, aren't they? Will they be seeing this one as a possible opportunity to pick up some points?
I think so, but I still wouldn't fancy them. So our match prices are 7-2 Bournemouth, the draw 11-4, and 4-6 Chelsea. Like, Bournemouth were a little unlucky last week against Burnley with the game turning on a couple of marginal handball decisions. But even still, to concede their defence torn apart by a Burnley team missing Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes is pretty concerning. Nathan Ake and Jefferson Lerma missed the game last week, and they're big losses, and they'll definitely need them back against Chelsea. Even though Chelsea were outclassed by Bayern, they did beat Spurs comfortably last week, and they should have Tammy Abraham back. And another thing to mention is that Chelsea's probably best performances this year have come without N'Golo Kante, and I can see them. Their midfield looks a little bit more creative without him, and I can see them beating Bournemouth fairly easily here. I like Chelsea to win here, both teams to score 5-2, and also Marcus Alonso, worth a look in the goal score markets, at 8 or 9 to 1 to score any time. He's been playing a bit further forward in Chelsea's 3-4-3 formation.
Yeah, great stuff. And a shout out to Jason Murphy as well, who predicted the correct first goal scorer in the Chelsea game last weekend. Liam, I've watched a lot of Bournemouth this season, and they haven't once impressed me. They look in real trouble, don't they?
Yeah, I think what we used to love about Bournemouth under Eddie Howe is kind of gone this season. I just think they are in danger. They are, right down there. With Chelsea as well, I think, obviously, humiliated by Bayern Munich in midweek, and whatever you say about being professional and now being able to obviously turn their attention to Champions League football with such a young group, that's bound to affect them. So I wouldn't actually be confident in backing either team in this game. So the bet I'd like would be both teams to score. I think, obviously, like I say, it's difficult for Chelsea to lift their spirits after that result. As for Bournemouth, like I say, their form has kind of been fluctuating. While they beat Brighton and Villa, two sort of crucial games down there at the bottom, obviously then fresh from defeats to Sheffield United and Burnley. Both teams have scored in 10 of Chelsea's 13 away games in the Premier League this season. We know they're not a solid side at the back. They showed that against Bayern Munich. And while Bournemouth, meanwhile, they've failed to score in only 4 of their 13 home games in the league this season. So I think there could be goals in this one. Wouldn't be too keen on backing either side. So both teams score for me.
Yeah, I like the sound of that, Liam. Dan, I guess for teams in and around this position in the table, home games are so vital at this stage of the season, though, aren't they? Yeah,
Bournemouth haven't got that many against teams in and around them. They've used a lot of those up, so there's pressure on them really to pick victories up against some big teams. And I think Chelsea are likely to win the game, but I agree with Liam. I wouldn't be touching them at that price. So I'm going to go with the same bet, both teams to score. Just think Chelsea, after the Bayern game, it is psychologically not easy to recover quickly from that. They're not reliable at the back. 1 clean sheet in the last 11 away games. And Bournemouth have won the last 2 home games. Brighton they beat 3-1 and Aston Villa 2-1. So, but Bournemouth's form generally, to avoid thinking they're a good bet at around 7-2. I mean, they've lost 12 of their last 16 Premier League games. They're on a miserable run. Chelsea have scored 27 goals in their 13 away Premier League games. They score lots of goals on the road. Goals at both ends, both teams to score.
Great stuff. Love it when our tipsters agree on something. Next game, Newcastle Burnley. Emmet, get me excited.
Hard to get you excited here, but Newcastle are 6-4, draw 2-1, and Burnley 15-8. Newcastle were well beaten by Palace last week, and it looks like their kind of awful statistics might be finally catching up to them. They're bottom of the league in the XG table. They scored the least amount of goals from open play, etc. And since that miraculous draw at Everton when Lejeune scored 2 goals in injury time, they've drawn 0-0 at home to Norwich in a game where Norwich had the better chances. They were battered 4-0 at the Emirates by Arsenal, and they barely mustered a chance at Sellers Park last week. Also, Newcastle rely heavily on set pieces this year, but no team has conceded fewer goals from set pieces than Burnley, so I don't think that matches up well. Burnley are having their best run of results of the season, and possibly Chris Wood to come back. I think I definitely lean their way at the match prices at 15-8.
Oh, very strong on Burnley. Like that, Emmet. Dan, I mean, Newcastle, they're probably safe. I'm saying probably there. But they must be so dull to watch them week in, week out.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're necessarily safe as well, because they're the sort of team that you could imagine going on there's 11 games to go, isn't there? They're the sort of team that's so lacking up front. They could go 11 games without winning, and that sort of form would probably send you down. So,
fair point.
But I still don't fancy Burnley at that sort of price to win away from Newcastle, away from home. Newcastle actually don't lose many home games. Only Arsenal, Everton and Leicester have won in the league at Newcastle this season. I don't think Burnley, despite their recent good run, are as good as any of those sides. So the thing that's just screaming out to me is low goals. Newcastle have failed to score in 4 of the last 5 games. Their last 3 home games, there's only been 1 goal in them, and that was when they nicked a 1-0 win at home to Chelsea. So I think Burnley as well, with the good run they've been on. I mean, the last game they beat Bournemouth 3-0, but really that could have gone either way based on that decision. I mean, it's so one decision, the difference between being 1-1, Bournemouth having the momentum, and it being 2-0 and game over. So I'm not going to get carried away with Burnley. To me, low goals, which means a draw has got to be high on the agenda. Draw for me.
Liam?
Yeah, similar thinking. I'd say one or both teams not to score, or both teams to score no. At 3-4. I mean, this has got to be a short price to be last on match of the day this game. They're probably the 2 teams. I have respect for them and the way they play, but the 2 teams I enjoy watching the least this season in the Premier League. I think the nature of the game is probably made worse by the fact I agree with what Dan's saying. Neither Newcastle aren't necessarily safe yet, but the fact the 2 sides have edged away from that drop zone, I think it makes it more likely they're going to kind of be playing not to lose as opposed to going for the win. Now Ashley Barnes again for Burnley, while Newcastle likely to be without key midfielder John Joe Shelvey. Only Liverpool have more league clean sheets than Burnley this season, which is quite impressive from them. I mean, like I say, they do have great defensive resolve, and we know what Newcastle's issues are going forwards. Newcastle's home matches are featuring, on average, only 1.85 goals. So I think back in a low-scoring affair could be the way to go.
Great stuff. I'd love if there was a last to feature a match of the day market. That would be brilliant. West Ham and Southampton's up next. Emmet, what are we thinking here?
So the match prices are West Ham 13-8. The draw 5-2 and Southampton 6-4. I was looking at the kind of home league table, and West Ham are level on points of Norwich in last the Premier League, and obviously West Ham are a poor team, so you expect them to be low down in that table. But I would suspect that the atmosphere in the ground is definitely at least having a small effect on that. From talking to a West Ham fan at work, and everything you read, the atmosphere seems poisonous against the Gold, Sullivan and Brady regime. And that must be having a small effect on the team. Southampton battered Villa even more than the 2-0 scoreline suggested last week. And they're the 5th best away team in the Premier League. They tend to thrive when teams give them space to counter-attack. I think the West Ham midfield that really lacks mobility will struggle against them. I think I'd have Southampton a little shorter than drawn up at even money.
Liam, I think Emmett's summarised the atmosphere around West Ham quite well there, and poisonous. Well, I looked at West Ham's bench a few weeks ago, and it's just remarkable the amount of talent they've got in that squad, considering where they are in the division. Can you see their form turning at all?
It's a tall order, isn't it? I mean, the only thing they can hope for is that the sides around them just keep losing games. But no, I think they're probably preferring to play games away from home at the moment, given the atmosphere there. And for that reason, I think they can get a point out of this game, but I don't think they've got the capacity to win it. So I'll go for a draw at about 5-2. As you said, they've got tremendous quality on the bench. You think of players like Felipe Anderson, Yarmolenko, Sebastian Haller even. I know he's not had the best of seasons, but he's still a prolific striker when he's at his best. So I just think that it's quite surprising to see West Ham, how they've got down there, because that squad simply shouldn't, But it's a massive game for them. They've got to play Arsenal, Wolves, Tottenham and Chelsea in the next 4 games after this. So defeat in this game would put them in serious danger, you'd expect. I don't think they would have expected anything from that Liverpool game, but the manner of the defeat, I think, would have frustrated them, because obviously they had an opportunity there to, I think it was always unlikely they were going to hold on to the win, but at least get a point, which would be a tremendous confidence booster. Any team that even scores at Anfield this season has done a good job. So they managed only 3 wins at home in the league this term. I'd just be reluctant to back them. With the reverse fixture, it was an evenly matched contest. The Hammers edged that 1-0. I think it will be another close contest, and so I think the draw is the way to go.
Great stuff, Liam. Dan, I know you watch a lot of Championship football like myself. The one player that always stood out was Jared Bowen to me. Has he made much of an impact at West Ham?
I don't think he's been given enough of an opportunity yet, has he? He's coming off the bench, a lot of the time. As I think they, you could argue they should use him more. Yeah. But I do rate him highly. I mean, you look at his goal tallies in the Championship. In an ordinary sort of side, mid-table whole side, absolutely fantastic. Yeah. He's not got searing pace, but he's got lots of ability. Fantastic finish, eye for picking a pass out as well. So should be a made for Premier League player really. But I think generally West Ham are struggling. I think the performance at Liverpool. I think part of it was West Ham played well. I think part of it, Liverpool, getting a little bit dozy at the moment in front. And I think missed Henderson, his intensity in midfield as well, him being injured was an impact and allowed West Ham to get in the game a little bit more. At the end of the day, the pressure is still all on West Ham. No winning 8 games. As Emmet mentioned, the atmosphere there is often toxic. If they fall behind here, you can imagine the crowd turning on them. And Southampton, are on such they've turned their season around, haven't they? Since that 9-0, drubbing against Leicester, they've been fantastic, really. And away from home, they've been better as well than at home. They've won 4 of the last 5 Premier League away games. The exception was the 4-0 at Liverpool, which was a bit of a harsh scoreline. Actually, they played well there for quite long periods. The game I watched against Spurs in the cup, they lost 3-2 at Spurs in the FA Cup replay. But I thought they played Tottenham off the park in that match as well. So I can't see them losing the game. So Southampton draw no bet, a shade of odds on. That does it for me.
Sounds good, Dan. It looks like one of the relatively big sides are going to go down in the Premier League this season, doesn't it? Is it going to be West Ham? Let us know down in the comments section below. One Saturday evening fixture then, it's Watford against table toppers Liverpool. Emmet, do Watford have a chance here, or is it going to be the story of the season so far, Liverpool coming away with all 3 points?
I think Watford do have a chance here. The match prices are 11-2, the draw 7-2, and Watford 2-5. As Dan mentioned there, I do think Liverpool missed Henderson against West Ham. Klopp mentioned after the game about the Liverpool having problems getting to second balls and with general intensity. And while Watford were really well beaten by Man United last week, they should get Ismaila Sarr back from injury for this game. I do think he's a really key addition. When you have him on one wing and Jared Delafeu on the other wing, that gives Watford a pretty good kind of counter-attacking threat. And if Liverpool aren't at it here, I think Watford would be competitive. Despite that, I think the match prices were pretty fair. So the way it looked, being Mo Salah to score any time, he's at 5-6. He scored 6 goals in his last 8 games. And him being on penalties in James Milner's absence only increases his chances of scoring.
Definitely. Liam, Dan mentioned there about Liverpool looking slightly dozy. I think Dan put it that way. I guess it's kind of expected. The amount of football they've played at such a high intensity. Does that mean Watford have a chance here?
Possibly, but we saw with Liverpool when they were dozy and West Ham capitalised, they switched back on and went and won the game. So I think they've got that capacity where they do fall behind, that they can just turn it on and roll a team over. They're that good. So I don't know. It's a difficult one, and I wouldn't actually be going for a bet in favour of Watford. I'd be looking in the goal scorer markets and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain to score first at 7-1 for me. There's 55 points separating these sides, so it's it's quite remarkable. And for that reason alone, it makes it difficult to want to back Watford, even given current form of Liverpool. Say current form, they're still winning games. It's just performances. But say a goal scorer bet could be the best approach. Jordan Henderson's absence kind of opens up that other starting spot in midfield, and I think Oxlade-Chamberlain has looked really good, and he's shortened, I think, as well to be part of the England Euro 2020 squad. Definitely think he's got to be there for consideration. Scored 7 goals in all competitions this season. 7-1 looks quite a good price.
There's still 11 games left in the season, and there's a 55-point gap between the two teams. That is remarkable. Dan, I guess you're the resident Watford expert here.
Yeah.
What are we thinking here?
My football brain actually tells me that Watford have got a bit of a chance here, and I wouldn't be totally shocked if they pulled something out, but I can't justify putting them up. As the stats that have been mentioned, 55 points, dropped 2 points all season. I can't go that far and tip Watford.
You're
to
close
win.
though, aren't you?
Let's just say I'm trying to cover myself, if you like, here, but I wouldn't be completely amazed if they pulled a result out. I think Emmet's totally right about Ismail Assar. He's a big player for Watford. He came off the bench at Manchester United. He's been in training for a couple of weeks. Highly likely to start. Big player for Watford. With a front three there in behind the Troy Deeney of Sarr, Delafeu and Doucouré sort of pushing on from midfield. And they've got the first choice holding midfield too. Will Hughes has come back from injury recently to play alongside Capoue. They're not a bad side, Watford, now under Pearson. Results haven't been great recently, but they've generally performed okay. Even at Man United, they performed okay until the second goal went in. So, but Liverpool with the firepower they got up front, we saw. When West Ham got in front in the week, that they just turn it on. And Watford's defence, I don't really trust them to cope with Firmino, Mane, and Salah. So the way I'm going to play it. I think Watford will score because of the vulnerability Liverpool are showing, but Liverpool to win. So Liverpool to win and both teams to score.
Okay, I can certainly feel a certain energy in the room though that Dan can see an upset here. Make of that what you will. We'll be back in a moment to be previewing Sunday's fixtures and also take a look at the other divisions.
Everything is better when it's bigger. Paddy Power's Same Game Multi allows you to combine a number of selections from a single match into one big bet. Check out the Same Game Multi tab and get building your bet. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Hello, welcome back to the Football Postcast here on the Racing Post. Thank you for making it this far. We've got an exciting final part of the show, so please do stick about. Emmet, the 2:00 fixture on Sunday sees Everton take on Manchester United. Now, I'm sure you're going to give their odds in a minute. I've got them written down on my bit of paper, and I was slightly surprised. Do you think this is a fair reflection on the game?
I would probably do. It's obviously worth mentioning that United have a fairly critical Europa League tie against Club Brugge on Thursday, which is still in the balance. So I expect United to play a strong team in that game. So, the match price is 6-4, the draw 23-10, and Man United 9-5. If United didn't have the Europa League game, I think they might be a little shorter here. I think if United had not signed Bruno Fernandes in January, I think their season would just look significantly different. I've been so impressed with Fernandes. He wants the ball under pressure. He directs traffic. He seems like a leader. His option taking the ball is excellent. He seems to have a wand of a right foot. His set piece delivery has been superb. And his signing was really an injection of quality that was desperately needed for United. This was also the scene, Goodison Park was the scene of United's biggest capitulation under Solskjaer. They lost 4-0 at Goodison last year. Gary Neville losing his head, and a generally disastrous performance. So I'd expect United to be extra motivated to deliver performance here. For Everton, I think Andre Gomes probably returned to the starting lineup after a long absence after that horrible-looking injury against Spurs earlier in the season. And he was superb off the bench against Arsenal, I thought. He played some beautiful defence-splitting passes against Arsenal. The way I'd look here would be both teams scored 8-11. It's clicked in Everton's last 5 league matches, and United's defence with Victor Lindelof at the back can often be found wanting away from home.
Great stuff. Yeah, Liam, it's a good point from Emmet there about Manchester United's really important Europa League fixture. But at 9-5, that looks a bit of value to me.
Oh, see, I disagree. I think the Everton 6-4 is a bit of value in this one. I can see where you're coming from, but I mean, Everton lost only 2 of their last 12 Premier League games. I mean, Carlo Ancelotti's done a really, really good job there. I mean, he had a terrific reputation already before he went to Goodison Park, but he's only enhanced that, now showing that he can do it at a lesser club than what he's been used to managing, taking them from bottom half strugglers to kind of on the fringes of a European berth this season. And the 2 games they did lose in that run, they didn't really disgrace themselves either. They pushed Man City pretty hard in their defeat in that. And to be fair, they probably should have got something from the game at the Emirates last week. I think they gave a good account of themselves. They just couldn't put the ball in the net to get the equaliser. So I think across the games that they've been managed under Ancelotti, they've looked really, really good. As we said, obviously United have that game against Brugge. They haven't put that game to bed in the away fixture, so obviously it's quite an important home tie for them. And I just think with Rashford out, the lack of depth they have in the final third is undoubtedly going to be taxing on the legs of those front men having to play on the Thursday and then obviously go to Goodison on the Sunday. And I don't think we can underestimate the influence of Andre Gomes either. I think he's a really sort of influential midfield player. Obviously, he used to be at Barcelona, so he's got a high profile. And I think coming back from injury is a massive boost to Everton as they kind of still look maybe outsiders for a European spot this season. So I think Everton to win this one is a good bet.
Okay, Dan, I can't think of many clubs across all the divisions where their fortunes have changed quite so much as Everton. few months back, they were in a relegation battle.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about European football. Do they win at Goodison this weekend?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to go for Manchester United tentatively, but I do think they're a bit overpriced. I'm aware of the Bruges game, but I think they played sort of mixed side in the first leg. I think they may do that again. Rest sort of 5 or 6 of the players, that he wants to kind of freshen up for the weekend. And I totally agree about Bruno Fernandes. They look a different side with him in the team. That bit of extra quality they were crying out for in midfield. Players like Martial now are starting to look a bit better because they got somebody to pick a pass. Martial, showed some good signs, I thought, against Watford, and all of a sudden they're chasing a third successive Premier League victory for the first time this season. That's how inconsistent Man United have been. And the other side of it, Everton, results-wise, been very good under Ancelotti. Performance-wise, pretty good as well. Until recently, I think look at the last sort of 3 games. I went to the Watford game, the 3-2. They were lucky there. They were, first half they were dominated really, and a miracle that the 2 set-piece goals in injury time that got them to 2-2 at half-time, and they nicked a goal on the break at the end. They didn't play well there. Crystal Palace, the 3-1, I thought was a flattering scoreline as well. Palace were well in that game for long periods, and the Arsenal game played some good football, but they took the lead in the first minute. Defended quite poorly, I thought, after that. Some good football from Arsenal, but they were wasteful in front of goal, defended poorly. I just think the standards are slipping a bit the last 3 games. So bearing that in mind, and Fernandes' impact at United for me overpriced.
Okay, well, a few disagreements in the studio. Let us know what you think down in the comments section below. We'll be getting on to the Carabao Cup Final in just a moment, but let's go to Spurs versus Wolves, 2 o'clock on Sunday. Emmet, we've just discussed the Europa League there. I mean, I watched Wolves at the weekend against Norwich, and they looked so good. They looked so brilliant in the first leg of their Europa League tie the other week as well. Do you see Wolves going all the way in the Europa League?
I think they can go very far. I was chatting with a few lads in the office. To me, if they played Arsenal or Man United over 2 legs, I'd be pretty tempted to back them. I think they're, especially with Willy Bowley back in defence, and to get Diego Jota scoring, I think is huge. I think Jota's a very good player. His work rate and skill level are all excellent. Just he hadn't been scoring enough. And if they, with him and Jimenez together, are a very potent combination. Traore's obviously been one of the breakout players of the Premier League this year. They have an excellent midfield with Neves and Matinho. Matt Doherty's outstanding at wing back. And so I think all across the team, like Rui Patricio, I think is an excellent goalkeeper. I think they're a really good team. Obviously, the squad isn't that big, but if everyone stays fit, or most of their players stay fit, I think they'll go close to the Europa League, and I think they've still a decent chance of getting top 4 as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, slight tangent there, but I thought we needed to touch on it. In terms of this game, Spurs against Wolves, give us a show of the odds, please, Emmet.
Sure. So Tottenham are 7-5, the draw 21-10, and Wolves 21-10. I'm fairly negative on Spurs here. They just don't look the team they have been in previous years, obviously, as their league position suggests, and their defense especially looks shaky. I think Toby Alderweireld's definitely past his best, and Jan Vertonghen possibly as well. They were being caught out by runs in behind against Chelsea last week by the likes of by Olivier Giroud, which really shouldn't be happening. And from watching the reverse fixture earlier in the season, Wolves really had the better of the game, and Spurs kind of nicked as kind of a smash and grab at the end. I fancy Wolves here at the price. Wolves won't play a strong team against Espanyol, who beat them 4-0 in the first leg. So I think they'll be fully focused on this game. I like to see them causing Spurs huge problems in the counter-attack. Worth mentioning in that reverse fixture, Spurs were relentless in their tactical fouling of Traore, and they've increased their amount of cards they're getting from last year to this year. Last season, the disciplinary table, they were 13th in terms of cards. This year, they're third in the league in terms of the cards per game. So I think if you can get Spurs 3 or more cards, it's 6-4 better. That's worth a look as well.
Well, certainly, it sounds like a good bet, that, Emmet. Dan, I think I'm going to have a little punt on the away teams double on the Sunday fixtures, United and Wolves. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, as you know, I'm a Spurs and Watford follower, so it doesn't give me any pleasure to say it. But I think Wolves draw no bet I've gone for here, because I think it'll be a tightish game. But odds against that looks a really good bet to me. I mean, the loss of Son and Kane for Spurs is just absolutely massive.
Yeah.
I mean, knowing that Kane was injured for the rest of the, pretty much the rest of the season, why on earth they didn't bring a striker in January? It baffles me really. When you're so reliant on Son to stay fit and in form to score the goals. I mean, the stats say it all. Son or Kane have scored in 13 of Spurs' 16 victories in all competitions this season. So they just, funny enough, one of the 3 wins without those two scoring was at Wolves, but I don't think it's going to happen again this time. Wolves have got so much more, of a threat going forward. You've got Hotter's in form, Jimenez, who I rate highly. Traore's been transformed this season. Don't think Spurs will cope with them. And as has been mentioned, they're 4-0 up against Espanyol. Can rest most of the players. Wolves for me.
Yeah, Liam, I'd be lying if I said I'd seen too much of Wolves this season until kind of the past 2 weeks. And in that period, they've just looked brilliant.
Yeah, they have, absolutely. I mean, I'm on my own on this one because I actually fancy Spurs in this game. But slight disclaimer, I do think of the teams sort of gunning for that 4th spot, if you look at Chelsea, Spurs, Man United, Wolves, Sheffield United, you can include a couple of others in there as well. I think Wolves are quite clearly the best side. But I think the nature of this game, for me, I just wouldn't fancy backing Wolves purely on the case. Obviously, under Mourinho, the quality of football has been scrutinised, as it pretty much is wherever he goes. And he hasn't been helped particularly by Harry Kane's injury, because not only is obviously Kane a natural goal scorer, but he's that kind of hold-up player that he needs in the system that he likes to play. So he's obviously been hindered by that. But I think that Wolves still this season as well prefer to be playing against sides who like to keep the ball and who are attacking minded, whereas Tottenham have kind of lost that impetus under Mourinho, and they tend to operate kind of more in their own half. I think they're especially with their defensive problems now, they're having to play slightly more on the back foot. And I don't think Wolves will be able to counter-attack them as easily as they would if they were playing another of the big guns up there. I think if you look at Wolves' away record this season, they've only got 4 away wins in the league this term, which isn't particularly brilliant. And Tottenham have won 4 of their last 5 home fixtures in all competitions, so they're not in dire form either. So for that reason, I'd probably lean towards Spurs in this one.
Okay, well, a range of opinions there. You can choose which one you agree with. We've got the small matter of a Carabao Cup Final to discuss now. Now, I'm not sure if this shows the state of the competition or my knowledge of football. I'll let you decide, but I didn't actually realise this was happening until I saw the front page of the RFO during the week. So it's Aston Villa taking on Manchester City. Emmet, take us away with what your opinion is on this.
So yeah, the match price are Villa at 16-1, the draw 13-2, and Man City are 1-7. Yeah, I think it's obviously, as the match price indicates, it's hard to have too much confidence in Villa. In their last 14 league matches, Villa haven't had a greater XG than their opponent. They've been struggling for a long time, and obviously that's only been exacerbated by John McGinn being injured. He's a crucial player for them, and there is some talk that he might return to bench the cup final, which would be a huge boost. But even still, it's hard to see them being that competitive here. But as mentioned earlier in the podcast, City's defence is definitely suffers when Laporte is absent, as he should be here. But I think both teams to score at 6-5, I think is worth a look. Also, Villa have conceded more goals from set pieces than any team in the league, so I'd probably expect maybe Otamendi to go close here. But his price of 11-2 or 6-1 isn't amazing. So both teams score at 6-5 the way I'd go.
Thanks, Emmet. Dan, I mean, considering this is a cup final, you look at the match prices, it's a bit of a joke, really. But we've seen Manchester City come unstuck against lesser sides this season. Could it happen here?
I don't think so. No. I do think there's a way of on a similar line there to Emmet to get a little bit of value out of the match. I would suggest a couple of correct scores, go maybe 4-1 and 5-1 Man City, and I think that both teams score better odds against is not a bad play as well. I just think on let's try and look at the few positives for Villa. Jack Grealish is a fantastic up and coming player. He's also I feel that he's a big stage player as well. Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if he had a good game and created something or maybe scored. And Laporte is a big miss for City. And the fact that they've had to play, Wednesday away to Real Madrid in the same week as a cup final. Villa have had a free week. So you just throw that in there, as much positivity as you can for Villa. And for that reason, I can see him maybe scoring. But overall, I mean, they won 6-1 at Aston Villa in the league. Aston Villa at Southampton, Dean Smith was saying that it was one of the worst performances he'd seen since he'd been their manager. He said that a lot of players have played themselves out of the team. Man City, you got Sterling coming back to fitness. Such a great performance at Madrid has raised the confidence. So I do think they'll win, but I think Villa may just get a consolation goal.
I mean, Liam, if we throw all of them Villa positives into a pot and the only conclusion is that they might nick a goal, that's a bit of a worry for them, isn't it?
It is, yeah, absolutely. I can't see anything other than a comprehensive Man City win. The bet I like is Man City -2 on the handicap, so to win by 3 or more goals at 5-4. Obviously, City looked incredibly sharp against Real Madrid. Smart tactics from Guardiola, which just emphasise that he is a big game manager. He doesn't have an amazing away record in Champions League knockouts. Obviously, this is a different ball game. And in terms of finals, quite remarkably, this victory in this game would be his 16th win in 17 major cup finals during his time at Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and Manchester City. So he knows how to raise a team's game on those, the final occasions. I mean, we've been here before. Man City decimated Watford in the FA Cup final last season. They beat Arsenal 3-0 2 League Cup finals ago. Obviously, the Chelsea game was a bit tighter last season, but I think when they're playing a lesser opposition, they can just roll them over in this kind of games. They've got that big game mentality in every single one of their players. Villa rife with problems across the pitch. Grealish is the only real positive I can see in that team who could make a significant impact. But mark him, and City don't really have any problems to deal with. So I think, comfortable Man City win for me.
Well, Villa fans, if you're already glum about the season, you're now even more glum. Sorry about that. Right, let's get into any other fancies across the divisions away from the Naps. We'll be getting on to the boys at Naps very shortly. Emmet, any other fancies across the EFL, the European divisions? Your pick.
Yeah, I'd go to La Liga here. I like to look at Atletico Madrid at evens away to Espanyol. I think that Atletico flattered to the sea for large parts of the season, and there's a lot of talk that this could be Simeone's last season with them. But that result, the 1-0 win at home to Liverpool, seems to potentially turn their season around to some extent. They played some great stuff against Villarreal last week, winning 3-1 at home. And getting João Felix back from injury is huge. They obviously spent massive money on him in the summer. I think he's significantly better than the likes of Vitolo and Morata, who've been playing in his place. So, and Espanyol are really struggling bottom of La Liga. So I think evens looks a good price to let go here.
Okay, sounds good. Dan?
I've got a League One fancy, which is Bristol Rovers odds against the home to home to Shrewsbury. Bristol Rovers beat Blackpool at home in their last home game 2-1. That was their first win under Ben Garner, who has been changing the style of play. There's a lot of teething problems, had a long winless run, been going to more of a passing style, but that win against Blackpool should have given them a bit more confidence. They went to Sunderland and lost 3-0 last weekend, but I think they got to half time at 0-0. We're in the game for quite a long period, and it's a big negative as well. This bet against Shrewsbury, who I think are showing signs of tiredness. They've had a lot of games with the Liverpool Cup game, the replay. They played 7 games in February already. They lost 3-2 at home to Tranmere, who have been on an awful run on Tuesday, so they're not in great form. So Bristol Rovers there, and in League 2, I fancy Oldham at home to Newport. Newport again, the tiredness I think is going to be a factor. I mean, this is their 9th game in February. It's Oldham's 6th game in February, so that's a big difference there on the legs. Newport did lose as well on Tuesday, 4-2 away to Grimsby, and Oldham have actually been picking up a little bit under Dino Marmria. They've had 4 unbeaten at home. I fancy him to win this one. Yeah,
I'm glad League One got a mention. I've loved following that league this season. Liam, we're off to America, are we?
We are, but first, the biggest game probably of the weekend, Barcelona Real Madrid. I'll go Barcelona draw no bet at the Bernabeu 6-5. I mentioned it a few times now. I expected more from Real Madrid against Manchester City. I thought they'd have more urgency. It was quite a taxing contest where, I don't think they had quite long spells without the ball in that game against City. Eden Hazard's not done a massive amount this season because of injury, but I do still feel they missed kind of a creative spark like his. And I just think Barcelona have kind of got the edge over them. And I think draw no bet odds against a good price. They ripped apart Eibar last time out. Messi scoring 4 goals in that one. And I think Messi's form is always a good indication of Barcelona's form. So I think, that's probably a good one. And over across to America at the start of Major League Soccer this weekend. I've got a season preview in this week's Assist.
Brilliant.
I'll be giving my kind of outright tips for the MLS Cup and top goal scorers in the division as well. The bet I like for the games this weekend is LA Galaxy to beat Houston Dynamo. LA Galaxy aside to keep an eye on this season, I think will certainly be within my considerations for an MLS Cup win this term. Brought in Javier Hernandez, and I just think he's just a perfect fit for that team. And assist maker Christian Pavon is on a loan from Boca Juniors, who can kind of provide the assist for Hernandez. I think they'll have quite a good partnership there. So I'd like to look at them to beat Houston Dynamo to start the season off.
Great stuff. Yeah, definitely check out Liam's MLS preview in the assist. You can either read it in this Friday's paper or also through your emails. You can sign up. Keep an eye out on our Twitter accounts for that. Right, time for the boys' naps.
This will not be beaten.
Okay, here we go then. Emmet, let's start with you.
Yeah, I like Forest drawn up at an evens way to Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough have lost 4 of their last 5, including defeats to the bottom 2 in the Championship of Luton and Barnsley. They're really missing Daniel Ayala and Patrick Roberts, and both aren't likely to play here. Whereas only West Brom have taken more away points to the Championship than Forest. I can see their price shortening here.
Great stuff, Liam.
Slightly shorter 1-1 for the Ackers. Leipzig to beat Bayer Leverkusen. Leipzig showed what they're all about with that win over Tottenham in the Champions League, and they followed that up by casually destroying Schalke 5-0 in the Bundesliga. Kept 4 successive clean sheets in all competitions. That started with a clean sheet away to Bayern Munich, and I think they can make the most of an extra break over Bayer Leverkusen, who will be travelling to Porto in the Europa League on Thursday. So Leipzig to beat Bayer Leverkusen.
Leipzig, strong argument. Dan?
Down in League 2, I'm going to go for cash-rich Salford to win at cash-strapped Macclesfield.
That was a mouthful.
I just think Salford done a lot of good business in January, bringing the likes of Bruno Andrade and Michael O'Connor from Lincoln, who were playing regularly in League One. They've done some good business. Performances are improving. Results have not been so clever yet. I mean, they had no luck last Saturday. They lost 2-1 at home to promotion chasing Colchester. They won the shot count 14-6 in that game. Away from home, they are getting the results. They're unbeaten in 5 away games. Macclesfield, I mean, they're probably going to stay up just because of the simple fact that Stevenage, who are at the bottom, are just so bad and can't get a point for loving the money. But they have only taken 2 points from the last 7 games, Macclesfield. Very rarely fill with their bench. Got a very small squad. Salford to win this one for me.
Great stuff. Sounds like a strong treble this week. You can check that out on the Paddy Power website. Links to that will be in the description below. Thank you to Liam. Thank you to Dan, and thank you to Emmet. Really enjoyed this week's show. Hope you did too. Please do leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you listen to us on, including Spotify. Bruce is back. He will be back on the Racing Postcast tomorrow. And until next week, when we join you for another football postcast, have a good week's punting, gamble responsibly, and we'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Friends, or maybe more. Earn a 20 quid free bet for every friend you refer to Paddy Power, thanks to our Friends with Benefits programme. Log in to your Paddy Power account and share your referral link to get started. Terms and conditions apply. 18+, begambleaware.org.